Have you ever woken up at exactly 3 a.m., hearing a sound in your house that made your blood run cold? A slow creak in the hallway, whispering where nobody stands, footsteps above your ceiling, or scratching behind the walls that suddenly stops the moment you listen closely. Most people brush these moments off as coincidence. But what if some sounds are warnings? What if certain noises in the dead of night are not random at all, but signs that something dark is watching you from the shadows? Tonight, we're uncovering 6 terrifying sounds in your house at 3 a.m. that many believe could mean a demonic presence is near. So before you turn off the lights, make sure you watch until the very end, because the last sound is the one people fear the most. It always begins with something small, a soft step in the hallway, a faint creak above your bedroom ceiling. At first, you convince yourself it is nothing. Maybe the house is settling, maybe someone outside made the noise, or maybe your imagination is playing tricks on you because it is late at night. But then it happens again. Slow, heavy, deliberate. Footsteps walking through your house when nobody else is there. And somehow, deep inside, you know these sounds do not feel normal. Many people who experience strange paranormal activity say the most terrifying sign is not seeing something dark. It is hearing it move. There is something deeply disturbing about footsteps in an empty home, because footsteps mean presence. They mean something is there, something pacing through your rooms while the entire house sleeps. And what makes it worse is the timing. These sounds often happen around 3 a.m., an hour many believe is connected to dark spiritual energy. Paranormal investigators sometimes call it the devil's hour, a moment when the boundary between our world and something unseen feels dangerously thin. Imagine lying awake in complete darkness. Your room is silent except for the ticking clock on the wall. Then suddenly, step, step, step. The sound comes from upstairs, even though nobody should be there. You freeze instantly. Your body becomes stiff as you listen carefully. The footsteps continue slowly across the floor, as if someone is wandering through the house, searching for something. Your heart pounds harder with every sound. You tell yourself not to panic, but the fear grows because the footsteps do not sound random. They sound intentional. Some people describe these footsteps as unusually heavy, far heavier than a normal person walking. Others say they sound uneven, dragging slightly like something is limping through the darkness. In many terrifying stories, the sounds stop completely the moment the person gets the courage to investigate. They open the bedroom door, look into the hallway, and find nothing. Every room empty, every light off. No sign that anyone was there at all. Yet moments after returning to bed, the footsteps begin again. There are countless stories online from people who claim they experienced this exact nightmare. One family reported hearing footsteps every single night at 3 a.m. directly above their bedroom, even though the upper floor was empty and locked. Another man claimed he heard footsteps circling around his bed itself, slow and careful. But every time he switched on the lamp, there was nobody standing there. What truly frightened him was the feeling that something invisible had been staring at him the entire time. In paranormal beliefs, unexplained footsteps are often connected to spiritual entities attempting to make their presence known. Some believe darker entities intentionally create these sounds to feed on fear. Fear becomes their power. The more terrified a person becomes, the stronger the activity grows. That is why many stories begin with footsteps before escalating into whispers, shadows, nightmares, or even physical encounters. The footsteps are seen as the first warning sign, proof that something unseen has entered the home. Even skeptics admit there is something psychologically terrifying about hearing movement in an empty space. Humans are naturally wired to recognize footsteps because they signal another living being nearby. So when your brain hears footsteps, but your eyes see nobody, it creates a deep sense of dread that is difficult to explain. It feels wrong, unnatural, almost predatory. And perhaps the most horrifying part is this. Sometimes the footsteps sound like they are getting closer, starting at the end of the hallway, then outside your door, then right beside your bed. In those moments, many people become too afraid to even breathe. They pull the blanket over themselves, like children hiding from a nightmare, hoping whatever is walking through the darkness will eventually leave. But according to some terrifying paranormal legends, if the footsteps suddenly stop right next to you, it may mean the thing making them is no longer walking. It may already be standing there, silently watching. There are few things more terrifying than hearing a voice in your house when nobody else is there. Not a loud scream, not a clear conversation, just a whisper, soft, low, almost impossible to understand at first. The kind of sound that makes you stop breathing for a second, because your mind cannot decide if you really heard it or imagined it. But then it happens again, a faint whisper drifting through the darkness at exactly 3 a.m. And this time it sounds like someone is calling your name. Many paranormal believers claim whispering voices are one of the strongest signs of a dark spiritual presence. Unlike random noises or creaking floors, whispers feel personal. They feel intelligent, as if something unseen is trying to communicate directly with you. And according to countless chilling stories, these voices rarely sound normal. They often seem distant, yet strangely close at the same time, almost like the sound is coming from inside the room or directly behind your ear. Imagine waking up suddenly in the middle of the night for no reason at all. Your room is dark and silent. You check the clock beside your bed, and the glowing numbers read 3:00 a.m. As you lie there half awake, you hear something faint in the corner of the room. At first, it sounds like air moving through the walls. But then the sound sharpens into a whisper, quiet, human-like, barely understandable. You hold your breath and listen harder. Then suddenly you hear it clearly. Your name whispered slowly from the darkness. The fear that hits in that moment is impossible to describe. Your entire body freezes. Goosebumps spread across your skin. Every survival instinct inside you screams that something is wrong. You know nobody should be awake. Nobody should even be near your room. Yet the whisper sounded real. Too real. People who claim to experience paranormal activity often describe whispers as the beginning of something much darker. Some say the voices mimic family members or loved ones to gain trust. Others believe demonic entities whisper to create fear, confusion, and emotional weakness. In ancient spiritual beliefs, dark entities were often described as deceivers, beings that hide in shadows and imitate human voices to lure people deeper into terror. One of the creepiest parts about these stories is how many people report the exact same patterns. The whispers usually happen late at night, when the house is completely quiet. They often begin softly, almost impossible to understand, before becoming clearer over time. Some hear random words, others hear breathing, mixed with faint laughter. But the most disturbing experiences involve hearing a voice call their name directly, as though something invisible knows exactly who they are. There are terrifying accounts online from people who woke up hearing whispers beside their bed, only to discover nobody there. One woman claimed she heard her mother's voice calling her downstairs at 3 a.m., but when she went to check, the entire house was empty and her mother was asleep. Another man described hearing whispering directly outside his bedroom door every night for weeks. He said the voices became louder whenever he felt afraid, almost feeding off his panic. Skeptics often explain these experiences as sleep paralysis, stress, exhaustion, or hallucinations caused by being half awake. And sometimes there may be logical explanations. But even then, the emotional terror feels real. Hearing a whisper in darkness triggers something ancient in the human mind, a primal fear that someone or something is nearby without being seen. What truly unsettles many people is the feeling that comes with the whispers. Victims often describe sudden heaviness in the room, icy cold air, or the sensation of being watched. Some even report hearing whispers move around them, from one corner of the room to another, as though an invisible presence is circling slowly in the dark. And according to paranormal legends, responding to the whispers may be the worst thing you can do. Some believe answering back invites the entity closer. That is why many spiritual traditions warn people never to respond when they hear unexplained voices at night, especially during the so-called devil's hour. Because if you hear your name whispered softly at 3 a.m. and nobody else is awake, terrifying question remains. Who or what was speaking to you from the darkness? It usually starts with a scratching sound so faint you barely notice it. A slow scrape inside the wall. Tiny movements behind the ceiling. At first, you assume it is something harmless. Maybe rats, insects, or old pipes shifting in the middle of the night. But then the scratching begins to change. It becomes louder, slower, more deliberate. And before long, it no longer sounds like an animal trapped inside your walls. It sounds like something trying to get out. Among the many terrifying paranormal experiences people report, scratching noises inside walls are considered one of the creepiest signs of a possible dark presence. Why? Because scratching feels desperate, human, almost intelligent. Unlike random house noises, scratching has intention behind it. It sounds like claws dragging across wood, fingernails scraping against concrete, or something moving just out of sight within the walls surrounding you. And when these sounds happen around 3 a.m., fear begins turning into pure dread. Imagine lying in bed late at night while your entire house sits in complete silence. No television, no traffic outside, just darkness. Then suddenly, scratch, scratch, scratch. The sound comes from behind your bedroom wall. You freeze instantly and listen carefully. The scratching stops for a moment. Relief washes over you. Maybe it really was nothing. But then it starts again, louder this time, longer, almost angry, slowly dragging across the inside of the wall as though something is crawling through the darkness behind you. Your mind immediately searches for logical answers. Maybe it is a rat. Maybe branches are scraping the house outside. But deep down, the sound feels wrong. Too heavy, too controlled. And the worst part is how unpredictable it becomes. Some nights the scratching comes from above the ceiling. Other nights from beneath the floorboards. Sometimes it even seems to move from room to room, as if something unseen is traveling through the walls of the house itself. Paranormal investigators and spiritual believers often connect scratching sounds to negative entities attempting to manifest themselves physically. In many terrifying legends, demons or dark spirits are said to create scratching noises before stronger activity begins. Some believe these sounds are meant to frighten people psychologically, weakening their sense of safety and filling the home with fear. Others claim scratches are signs that an entity is trying to enter deeper into the physical world. There are chilling stories online from people who swear the scratching could not have come from any normal animal. One family described hearing violent scratching every night at exactly 3 a.m. inside the walls around their child's bedroom. They called pest control multiple times, but no animals were ever found. Eventually, the sounds became so intense that it felt like something was clawing directly beneath the wallpaper. Another man claimed he heard scratching underneath his bed every night for a week, but whenever he looked underneath, there was absolutely nothing there. Some reports become even more disturbing. Certain people claim they not only heard scratching sounds, but later discovered unexplained scratch marks on walls, doors, or even on their own bodies after waking up. In paranormal folklore, scratches appearing in groups of 3 are considered especially sinister because some believe they symbolically mock religious protection. Whether true or not, stories like these have fueled fear around unexplained scratching sounds for generations. Even from a psychological perspective, scratching noises are deeply unsettling because they trigger a natural survival instinct. Humans associate scratching with intrusion, something trying to break in, escape confinement, or hunt from hidden spaces. When those sounds come from inside your walls, the fear becomes worse because the source remains invisible. Your imagination fills the darkness with terrifying possibilities. Many people who experience these sounds describe the same horrifying feeling, the sense that the scratching reacts to them. If they move, it moves. If they listen closely, it suddenly stops. And sometimes, just when they begin calming down, one loud scratch tears through the silence unexpectedly, making their heart nearly stop. But perhaps the most terrifying part of all is what some paranormal believers say about scratching noises that suddenly go silent. According to certain legends, if the scratching stops completely after growing louder and louder, night after night, it may not mean the presence has left. It may mean it finally found a way out. There is something deeply terrifying about hearing a knock on your door in the middle of the night. During the day, a knock is normal, expected. But at 3 a.m., when the world is silent and everyone should be asleep, even the smallest knock can send fear crawling through your entire body. And according to countless paranormal stories and dark legends, sudden knocking at 3 a.m. is not always coming from a human visitor. Sometimes, people believe something far darker is trying to get your attention. It often begins with a single knock, soft, slow, almost polite. You wake up confused, staring into the darkness while your brain struggles to understand what pulled you from sleep. Then it comes again. Knock, knock, knock. This time louder. Clear enough that you know you did not imagine it. Your heart immediately starts racing, because no normal person should be at your door at this hour. The house is silent except for those knocks echoing through the darkness. Most people's first instinct is to check who is outside, but fear stops them. Something about the sound feels wrong, empty, cold, almost unnatural. Some describe the knocking as strangely rhythmic, too perfect to sound human. Others say it seems to come not only from the front door, but from walls, windows, or even inside the house itself. Paranormal believers often connect unexplained knocking to spiritual entities attempting to enter a home or announce their presence. In many old legends, knocks at night were seen as warnings of death, evil spirits, or demonic activity. Some cultures even believed that opening the door after hearing mysterious knocks at 3 a.m. could invite darkness into the home. Whether superstition or not, these stories have terrified people for generations. One of the creepiest paranormal beliefs involves the 3 knocks. Many investigators of supernatural activity claim repeated knocks in groups of 3 are especially disturbing because they are believed to mock religious symbols or spiritual protection. Stories describing 3 slow knocks at exactly 3 a.m. appear again and again across horror experiences online, making the pattern even more unsettling for those who hear it themselves. Imagine sitting alone in your bedroom late at night, while rain taps lightly against the windows. The house feels calm until suddenly knock, knock, knock. 3 heavy knocks echo from downstairs. Every muscle in your body tightens instantly. You stare toward the hallway, waiting for another sound. Silence, complete silence. After several minutes, curiosity overcomes fear, and you slowly walk downstairs. The front door is locked. The windows are closed. Nobody outside. Nobody anywhere. Yet moments after returning upstairs, the knocking begins again. This time directly outside your bedroom door. Stories like this are more common than many realize. One woman claimed she heard loud knocking on her apartment door every night for 2 weeks at exactly 3:15 a.m. Each time she checked through the peephole, the hallway was completely empty. Another family reported hearing violent pounding on the walls throughout their house, so loud that pictures shook. But whenever they searched for the source, everything suddenly stopped. What makes sudden knocking so terrifying is the feeling of invitation behind it. Knocking is something humans do when they want to enter. So when unexplained knocks happen in darkness, the mind immediately imagines something outside waiting to be let in. Something patient, watching. Listening, even skeptics admit mysterious knocking can create intense psychological fear. Old houses naturally make noises. Pipes expand, wood shifts. But when those sounds resemble deliberate knocks, especially late at night, the brain reacts instinctively. Humans are wired to respond to knocking because it signals another presence nearby. And when no person can be found, the fear becomes difficult to ignore. Many paranormal stories claim the activity often grows stronger if the person reacts emotionally. Fear, panic, or obsession with the sounds may intensify the experience. Some people even report hearing knocking, follow them from one room to another, as though the unseen source is playing with them. But according to some of the darkest legends, The most dangerous thing you can do is answer the knocking. Because if the sound at your door truly does not belong to a human visitor, opening it may not simply let something into your house, it may let it into your life. Few sounds trigger fear faster than hearing a growl in complete darkness. Not a normal sound, not the bark of a dog outside or the rumble of distant traffic. A deep, low growl echoing somewhere inside your house when nobody else should be awake. And when that sound is followed by slow, heavy breathing coming from the shadows around you, the terror becomes almost impossible to explain. According to countless paranormal stories, deep growling or breathing in the darkness is considered one of the most disturbing signs of a demonic presence watching from nearby. It often happens at the exact moment the house becomes completely silent. You wake suddenly in the middle of the night for no clear reason. The room feels strangely cold, heavy somehow. You check the time beside your bed and see 3 a.m. glowing on the clock. For a few seconds, everything seems normal. Then you hear it. Slow breathing somewhere in the darkness. Deep, raspy, inhuman. Like something standing in the room trying not to be noticed. Your entire body freezes instantly. Every instinct inside you screams danger. You stop moving and listen carefully, hoping it was only your imagination. But the breathing continues. Slow inhale, slow exhale, too clear to ignore. And then comes the growl, low and guttural, vibrating through the silence like a warning from something unseen hiding nearby. Many people who claim to experience paranormal encounters describe this exact phenomenon. Some hear breathing directly beside their bed while living alone. Others report growling sounds from dark corners of the room, closets, or empty hallways. What terrifies most victims is not only the sound itself, but the overwhelming feeling that something hostile is watching them from the darkness. In paranormal beliefs, growling is often associated with negative or demonic entities because it represents aggression and intimidation. Unlike whispers or footsteps, growls sound openly threatening. Many spiritual traditions describe dark entities as creatures that imitate animalistic sounds to create fear in humans. Some investigators even believe unexplained growling is a sign that a presence has become powerful enough to physically influence its surroundings. Imagine lying in bed, unable to move as heavy breathing slowly circles your room. You try convincing yourself it is your own breathing echoing in panic, but deep inside you know the sound is separate from yours. Then suddenly the growl comes closer, deeper this time, angrier, as though whatever is hiding in the darkness realizes you can hear it. The air feels colder, the room feels heavier, and in that moment, many people become too terrified to even look around. There are chilling accounts online from people who swear they heard breathing inches from their face while alone in bed. One man claimed he woke up to deep growling in the corner of his room and saw a dark shape standing near his closet before the sound suddenly vanished. Another woman reported hearing raspy breathing every night at 3 a.m. for months. She said the sound moved around her bedroom as if something invisible was slowly pacing in circles around her bed. Some paranormal investigators believe dark entities feed on fear itself. According to these beliefs, growling and breathing are methods used to intimidate victims emotionally and mentally. The more terrified a person becomes, the stronger the activity appears to grow. Whether supernatural or psychological, the fear produced by these sounds feels completely real to those experiencing them. Even scientifically, humans are naturally wired to react strongly to growls and breathing sounds. Deep growls resemble predator warnings, triggering ancient survival instincts buried deep in the brain. Heavy breathing nearby suggests another living presence close enough to attack. That is why these sounds feel so primal and terrifying, especially when heard in darkness where the source cannot be seen. But perhaps the most horrifying part of these encounters is what many victims describe afterward. Silence. Suddenly, after minutes of terrifying growling and breathing, the sounds stop completely. No footsteps leaving, no door opening. Just total silence filling the room again. And according to some terrifying paranormal legends, that silence may not mean the presence disappeared. It may simply mean it realized you were awake and stopped making noise, because sometimes the scariest thing in the darkness is not what you can hear. It is what might still be standing there after the sound is gone.